As we're going through the political season, the presidential campaign for who will be the next president in the United States of America, there's a lot of uneasiness, there's a lot of divisiveness, there's a lot of us versus them, and it feels terrible. That energy is horrible. It feels very chaotic and very confusing, very frightening. And when I find myself in that place where I start to swirl into a place of, oh my God, what's going to happen? You know, being a trans man, being a part of a marginalized community of people, relying upon my rights to be supported through the government, to make sure I have a safe place to live, and a right to be myself, a right to speak my truth and live my truth, and to create business and all the things that I do. I'm relying on the laws to protect me. And as we're moving through this presidential election that will happen in November of 2024, I have really learned the importance for myself of knowing what's right for me. And I feel like it took me a long time to connect with myself in a way that I knew what I wanted, or to be very clear on my own desire. Because as I was raised in a religion, I worked very hard and long to, number one, be good, so that I wouldn't lose my place with God. And number two, I did the best I could to do what I was told in order to be a good person, so that I would be acceptable before God in the religion that I was in with my family of origin, that I would be accepted. And because I lived that way and I worked really hard to be good, oftentimes I wouldn't pay any attention to what felt right. I just equated what was right with what I had been taught was good. And what was good was according to the religion that I was raised in. And that put me in a really tricky position. Because when I met Tiffany, she wasn't Tiffany Walker. I almost said Tiffany Walker. When I met my wife, Tiffany, and I was 39 years old, and I saw something in her that resonated so deeply to my core. It felt like there was this clearest pathway as I would listen to her, as we would talk, as we would connect. When I would look into her eyes, it just felt like it opened the door to my core, to the truth of me. And she was always such a strong advocate for me to live my truth and to know what that was. And she would ask me questions, and oftentimes I'd push back against those questions if she would say, well, how do you feel? And even one time I said to her, why do we need to feel our feelings? Like, what is the point? I was so disengaged and so disconnected because I was always pushing and striving to be right and to be good according to what I had been taught, rather than to really deeply identify for myself if the values that I was holding and living true to, if they matched myself, my core, my own heart. And as Tiff continued to really have such a strong impact for standing in my truth, I mean, I would say Tiffany's purpose on this planet is to help us, every person that she talks to or listens to her, comes into her sphere, she helps us tap into the truth of who we really are. And that's such a gift that she gives, and that's the gift she gave me. So as we met and I found myself falling head over heels in love with a woman, I am a trans man. Yes, I am a man. I'm Jack Walker. I'm a man. But I was born in a female body, so that places a label upon me of being a trans man. That means I was born in a female body and I am a man. And I tell you that simply because for me to know and to live in my truth at the level that I live in today, I had to learn for myself what was right for me and what wasn't. And while we're in this wild political race here in the United States, if every single person in this country would stop and get crystal clear, really listen, pay attention to what you're hearing. Pay attention to the two different candidates that are standing up in this race. Really listen to them and intuit for yourself where you feel aligned. What makes you feel open? What makes you feel alive? What makes you feel hopeful? What makes you feel free? What makes you feel supported? That would be your answer. Vote for that person. I know who I'm voting for. It's very clear to me. And I have listened and listened and listened to both sides because I wanted to know for myself, where do I stand? What matters to me? Well, number one, being true to myself, living as a trans man in this country, I really, truly will vote in a way that will keep me supported and living my truth freely, and that I'll have support to be my most authentic self here on this planet, and that I'll be safe doing that. So yes, that comes into play when I'm making a vote. But I literally have paid attention just to when I say hear, pay attention to how I feel within myself and what feels aligned. And for me, when I finally started learning, as Tiff and I spent those first 3 years becoming best friends, having deep, 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 deep conversations, I was learning little by little how I could trust myself because of the questions Tiff would ask, because of the things that she would say, because of how she would share deep concepts and ideas. And she never wanted to tell me what I thought or believed. She wanted to know how I thought, what I believed, how I felt. And that was a serious work in progress for me for a good many years. And I can tell you that once it crossed over and I was able to truly understand, and it happened, I would say, when I really began to understand how to identify for myself what felt right to me, what felt aligned to me. It was when I was trying to make a decision about driving home for a holiday to my family of origin with my little kids. I had 4 little kids. I'd be driving in the winter on very slick roads. It would be going home for Thanksgiving. And I know my family all wanted me to be there. And the weather was very bad. And I'd be driving 4 hours and there would be some very slick roads, icy roads. And I did not feel, it didn't feel right to go, but I couldn't even say. Tiff would say, what do you want to do? And I would say, I don't know. I need to go home because they're all planning on me and they're expecting me to be there. So I really need to go home. And she goes, well, what do you want? And she asked me this question and it helped me get such clarity. She asked me, if everyone were happy with whatever you chose, if every one of those people, all of your family, the kids, everybody was happy. And they were like, oh, great. We're so glad that Jack made this decision. And she said, then what would you choose? And as soon as she pulled out the fear, it removed the fear of me being afraid that I'd let someone down. It gave me clearer thought. So I could very quickly identify, oh, this is what I want. I don't want to drive home on the slick roads because it doesn't feel safe to me. And I don't want to do it. So I called my family and I let them know. And they were really, really bummed that I wasn't going to be there. In fact, kind of pushed back at me and tried to push and try to get me to come anyway. And that was the first time, honestly, in my life that I consciously took a stand, made a decision, and spoke my truth. And yeah, there was pushback, but what I learned that day was, without a doubt, one of the greatest learnings of my life. Because what I learned after I made that decision is the feeling that I had inside of myself. I felt connected to myself in a way that I hadn't before. I felt more continuity between me and me. I felt more powerful in my being. I felt more aligned and clear with myself. And it was because I stopped and made a decision. I was able to clearly identify what I wanted. Not what everyone else wanted, but what I wanted. And that began a journey back into my true self. Thank you, Tiff. for giving me that gift. And now I hope that me sharing that question, if you're somebody that has a hard time identifying what you want for yourself because you worry about what everyone else wants, ask yourself, if everyone, all the people that I'm worried about, were happy with whatever I chose, like they'd just be great, we're so glad that you're doing what feels aligned to you, good on you, we're glad. What would you want? What would you choose? And then as much as possible, go after it. Make the decision, make the choice, set the boundary, do the thing, or at the very least, just find out what it is you truly want. That's where it all starts. So as I segue back over to this big, wild political race that's happening here, and all the huge things, and all the TikToks, and all the videos, and all the comments, and all the rallies, and all the words, and all the craziness, oh my God. When I look over here and I listen to this side, this party, and the people that are standing up in front and the things they're sharing and the way they're sharing, I use my inner knowing, my intuition to really feel into it. If it feels opening and expanding and I feel hope and I feel joy and I feel possibility, that is a hell yes for me. That person will get my vote. If it's a closing down, I feel angry, I feel scared, I feel worried about the future, that is a F no for me. And if I'm not living my truth, whose truth am I living? So one of the greatest things, as I really sat and thought, it's like, here we are in this awesome opportunity of change in our country. It will impact the world. My job, my number one job, is to connect with myself, to get crystal clear on what feels aligned to me, and then do that. And when I'm doing that, I'm bringing myself, I'm living in my power. I'm very at one with myself. And when I'm at one with myself, I can bring my gifts to the world in a bigger way. And that matters to me tremendously. So I thought I would share that with you because I want to do my part. I want to make a difference on this planet. I want to make a difference to all of the fear mongering that's happening here in the United States. I want to make a positive impact to bring light and hope to you. And I want you to know, pay attention. It's okay. It's safe for you to be you. It's safe for you to open your eyes. It's safe for you to know. It's safe for you to feel. It's safe for you to show up. The most important thing you can do for yourself and for the world at large is to live your truth and to know what that is.